Today, we're talking about wholeness of sorts. When I have an opportunity to speak, I usually have like a month and I will like write down things throughout the month. And then something will happen that informs what I'm going to teach about. This month, it happened to be that we launched a workshop called Fear, Faith, and Politics. It's really designed for all of us to do a deeper introspection of who we are and understand how we approach political matters and how that lines up with our faith call, how it lines up with the values that we say we believe in. This is not us teaching them. This is us teaching us. Now, in New Thought, many of us know we have this concept of wholeness. And those who have related or very similar ideas and philosophies as we do, like the Universalists, the Muslim Sufis, the Jewish Kabbalists, the Christian mystics, wholeness is a central theme for many of us. And we work for us to see perfection and unity in everything. But if we are honest with ourselves, division looks pretty real right now. So let's not pretend we haven't seen it. We all watch the news. We sit across the dinner table from people who we love and cannot find an inch of common ground with. You scroll, and what you witness, it kind of seems like a permanent fracture that's really running through the center of this country. Not only in the headlines, but in our neighborhoods, in our workplaces, and even in our congregations. So what I have come to say is that the universe, or rather that fracture, is not in the universe, that brokenness. The universe is not broken, and the universe is not divided. The universe is not waiting for us to repair it. Ernest Holmes wrote in The Science of Mind, the universe is not limited. It's abundant, lavish, extravagant. Nothing can be taken from it nor added to it. Nothing can be taken from it. So not by an election, not by a war, not by the worst thing that you or I have seen this week. So what we're living through is not a cosmic problem. This is a consciousness problem. And although I'm using the country that we live in, the United States, as the backdrop for this, if you're paying attention to the world news, this is not an uncommon problem. This consciousness problem, and it is consciousness, that's something we can change. We can change our minds. We can change our consciousness. Now, there's a principle, believe it or not. Everyone's grandmother or grandfather has told you a version of this. There's nothing new under the sun. And their grandparents told them that, and their grandparents before them. So that means that this consciousness disease, the cure for it already exists. And that principle that was handed down to each and every one of us already operates in the universe, and you already know it because many of you, particularly if you grew up in any Christian denomination, which most have in the US. You learned it as a child. We call it the golden rule. I want you to say it to yourself right now before I even have to read it off to you because you know it. Most of you know it already. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. In the Amplified Bible in Matthew 7, chapter 7, verse 12, it says, "So then, in everything, treat others the same way you want them to treat you. For this is the essence of the law and the prophets." The essence, not a suggestion. That's the whole thing. So this is not about sentiment. This is not about politeness. This is the description of how reality actually behaves. So that leaves us with an honest question. If we're going to be honest with ourselves, every one of us, if this is true, if this is what we believe, why do we live as though it were not? Unless I'm the only one who's guilty. During our workshop on Monday, every one of us who participated, including myself who was facilitating it, got an opportunity to wrestle with the things that we say we believe and how we respond to them. And I've been thinking about the way I respond to issues all week. Is this in line with what I say I believe? Is this in line with my values? Or am I making justifications to help me fit those things into what I say I believe? Why have we become so good, so ingenious at explaining why the golden rule does not apply this time? And this time could be any situation that you come up with. So I want to dive into at least 3 of the justifications that we as human beings use, what I have noticed. If we live from the golden rule, everything would change. Not because we become something new, but because we finally express that which we already are. But we don't, at least not consistently. Let us be honest about the 3 ways that we talk ourselves out of it. The very first justification: they are different from me. It's called comparison. You know, I'm going to go off track here for a quick second. In the Bible, one of the main reasons why Satan was cast out was that he wouldn't bow down to man, according to how the scripture goes. There's metaphysical understanding of that, but just going on how the story is written. God created man, told the angels to submit. Satan said, no, I'm not doing that. He's made of dust. That's what he said. And in the Quran, it actually has the exact same story where Satan even, or rather Lucifer, excuse me, even went through the process of trying to explain to God why he is superior to his creation, pointing out the differences and why he is greater. That is the whole reason behind the story of Lucifer being cast out of heaven. That creation is different from who I am. I think I'm greater. It starts with that comparison, with that belief, because that belief introduces separation. They look different, they speak different, they behave different, they believe different, they vote different, they worship differently, or not at all. And so we conclude, because they are different, the rule does not apply. We tell ourselves, I would treat them the way I would want to be treated, but they're not like me. They wouldn't understand it. They wouldn't appreciate it. They wouldn't return it. In the wisdom of Solomon in chapter 11, verses 24 and 26, it says, For thou lovest all things that are, and abhorrest nothing which thou hast made, but thou sparest all, for all thine, O Lord, thou lover of souls. Now, what does that mean? A lot of thous in there. It says, Thou abhorrest nothing which thou hast made. That means that anything that the Creator, that Spirit, that universal power that brought us all into existence, none of it is bad because the Creator created it. Not one of these human beings is inherently bad because the Creator created it. Not most things, nothing. So there's no footnote in that verse. There is no exception to that clause, except the ones that frighten you, except the ones that voted the wrong way, except the ones who hurt you. Divinity doesn't work that way. The divine does not sort creation into acceptable and unacceptable. Only we do that. And we pretend to call it discernment. There's a writer by the name of Adrienne Brown, and she has a column that says, Love looks like accountability. And she says, let yourself be surprised by the person in front of you rather than constantly comparing them to limited colonial ideas of what their race, ethnicity, gender, class, ability, or other constructed stereotype is cast to be. Let yourself be surprised. Now, what if we set down our certainty about who someone is before they open their mouths? This is not naivete. We're talking about looking at developing an accurate perception. You see, consciousness recognizes itself. So when you meet a person expecting to define the divine there, expecting to find divine spirit there, expecting to find God there, you generally do. That was your expectation. Justification number 2, I am protecting myself. And this one is seductive because underneath it, there's something real there that supports that belief. And all of us have been hurt at some point. We've been betrayed, and we carry that with us, stemming from who we are, our sexual orientation, our gender, color of our skin. And we may have we may have encountered situations that allow us or make us carry certain things. And so we reason that if I give them the kindness that I would want, they're going to use that against me. So I'm going to need some kind of armor. I need to be sharp. I need to be guarded. I need to be unavailable. Because that is what safety cost. And this is where the science of mind becomes revolutionary. Holmes wrote in New Horizons, there is no principle known to science that is limited by any use that was ever made of it. The past does not have a relationship to the present and in the creation of the future, but if we break the sequence and initiate a new chain of causation through volition, then the same power that brought bondage will bring freedom. Let's break that down for a moment. You're not sentenced to repeat what you've done. The same law that carried that injury forward will carry freedom forward the moment you initiate a new chain of causation through your own volition, through your own choosing, not someday, but in the very next conversation that you have. You can take your experiences that have caused you to put up walls, and you can decide to approach other people differently. You can decide to let your walls down, decide to take your armor off. You can decide that and initiate a new chain of events in how you interact with your fellow human beings. Freedom is not the same as defenselessness. So just because you're opening yourself up to other human beings does not mean that you are becoming defenseless. There's a writer named Prentice Hemphill, and Prentice wrote in a book called What It Takes to Heal, boundaries are the distance at which I can love you and me simultaneously. The distance at which I can love you and me simultaneously. You see, a boundary is not a wall. A wall ends a relationship, it's firm, impregnable. But a boundary makes a relationship possible because it means that neither one of us has to disappear for the other one to exist. There's an old saying, good fences make good neighbors. Anyone remember that? Maybe? There's some truth to that, right? You have a boundary there. That doesn't mean we can't talk to each other, but there's a boundary there. There's like a little rickety fence between myself and my neighbor next door. You know, it's like a partial fence. It's not even like a real fence. And my other neighbor, we just have like this tree that says that's his property and this other tree, other half is mine. And I don't wander into his yard. I don't wander into their yard and they don't wander into mine. But we have a good relationship with each other. We look out for each other. So that wall, there is no wall there, but there's a good fence that allows us to interact with each other and to live together in peace. Boundaries are powerful. Hemphill goes on and asks the question, how shall we shelter our blah, blah, blah. How can we shelter our authenticity, our real selves? You can treat a person with profound respect and still not hand them your peace. You can have both at the same time. And that's the whole art here. And here's the third justification. And we all learned this one, I think, when we were 3 or 4. We all learned this justification. They started it. Right? We know that justification. They did it first. So we're going to do it. And we're going to do it bigger, better, and with more ongoing enthusiasm. This is bookkeeping. You're keeping score, but calling it justice. If they had been decent first, I would be decent back. They weren't, so I'm released from that Jesus stuff, doing to others. I'm released from that because they did it first. But let's look at the principle. The golden rule says, do unto others as they have. It doesn't say do unto others as they have done unto you. That's not the golden rule. That's reaction. That is the mechanical swing of cause and effect. And it keeps human beings in the same argument. The golden rule, Luke chapter 6, verse 32, simply says this: treat others the way that you want them to treat you. There is no clause about what they did first. It is not responsive, it is creative. It begins something instead of continuing something. It begins something new. Neville Goddard, in his lecture, The Secret of Prayer, he says in 1967, or said rather, if I want something, I know that the desire comes from the Father, because all thought springs from him. Having given me the urge, I thank him for fulfilling it. Yes, he's written in the language of 1967, but let's pay attention to the topic here. Thanks first before evidence. We walk in faith when we deal with someone else. We give thanks that we see the divinity in that other human being before we see the evidence of it. So what if we give thanks for a person's highest nature before they had shown you one shred of it? This is not flattery. This is just recognition that you are speaking to the divine, that you're interacting with the divine. This is a deliberate assumption of what is always true, which is the divine that is in me is in you. Now, this is not about denying harm. This is not pretending that there isn't a wound there. This is about refusing to let that harm have the last word. That's what this is about. And even though we have these three steps, this was more interpersonal, but let's take this from the personal to the political. Look at what we do with these justifications. We don't retire them, we just scale them up. The other party is fundamentally different. That's justification number one. If I extend anything to them, they're going to exploit it. That's justification number two. They started this. Look at what they did first. That's justification number three. Same moves, same consciousness, just wearing a bigger coat, the coat of politics. Hempel says again, the personal is political and the political lives in our personal interactions, no matter how much we might wish to cleave them apart. We can't cleave them apart. Anything where human beings are involved, whatever we reflect in our personal lives are simply going to reflect in our political lives. So that same contempt that you rehearse at your Thanksgiving dinner is the same contempt that gets voted into law. There's no firewall between them. There never was. In the book of Enoch, it says, "But seek and choose for yourselves righteousness and elect life, and walk in the paths of peace, and ye shall live and prosper." Seek and choose. These are both verbs and they're both active. Peace is not weather. Peace is not weather that happens to you. It's a path that you select deliberately. And you select that path over and over. What would it mean to walk in that path? How do we walk in that path in a political conversation? We have to have genuine curiosity about how the other person arrived at where they stand. A willingness to hear legitimate fear underneath the position that you find intolerable. A recognition that that person is trying to protect something that they love, the same as you and I. That's not an agreement. It's not a surrender of your values. It's refusing to let that argument cost you your own consciousness. Because we not only see that in our personal lives and in our parties, but we also see that in the nation as a whole. We start to see this fractal relationship. But that pattern at the small scale is the same pattern at every scale. Your marriage is a fractal of your nation. Your workplace is a fractal of your nation. The way you treat the person that you cut off in traffic is a fractal of your nation. Our nations do not develop foreign policy in a vacuum. They express it at scale. The consciousness of their citizens, of our citizens here in our home, we're basically rehearsing contempt privately that will authorize that publicly. And then we sit back and we're shocked at what you and I, have authorized. But that law is neutral and it runs in both directions. That means that the reverse is equally true, and this is the liberating part. Every act of genuine curiosity that we perform, every wise boundary that we set without cruelty, every accountability that you take that you could have dodged. This is not private, that's national work. Done at the only scale that any one of us that actually have access to. So that means that by carrying this out in our personal lives and demonstrating this, we demonstrate or model a new way for people to interact. And through our consciousness, we share that with our country. We share that with our communities. We share that with our families. We share that with our counties. We share that all the way up to those who sit and make decisions for us nationally. Holmes says there's never been a lesson taught by the illuminated that we find God only within ourselves and God can work only for us by working through us, only by working through us. There's no other door into this world. Divine order does not descend on a nation, it walks through people. The Quran says there is no compulsion in religion. The right direction is henceforth distinct from error. No compulsion. The divine does not force us, it illuminates us, and then it honors the freedom of every single soul to choose. When we try to compel people, when we insist that others be remade in our image before we will grant them dignity, we are not doing the divine's work. We are doing the exact opposite of it. So how do we form common ground? And I'm coming to an end. 3 practices that I'll share with you. Number 1, each one of us must take accountability for our own inner world. That's where it all begins. We cannot meet another person cleanly while we are unclear about what's happening inside of us. The law responds to our consciousness, not to their behavior, yours. So before that difficult conversation, the family member, the colleague, the one whose name tightens your jaw, stop. Get quiet and ask 3 questions. What am I actually afraid of here? Not that surface answer, the real one beneath it. 2, what story am I telling myself about this person? Am I certain that they are malicious when it is at least possible that they're frightened? And 3, what am I placing on them that actually belongs to me? Anne Marie Brown says the good news is accountability practices can be just as contagious. Contagious in both directions. Whatever you have not examined in yourself, you will hand to somebody else. And they're going to hand it to someone else. So you can't afford to look honestly at yourself. There is no penalty for waiting on the other side of your own inventory. Also, I want you to consider one of the single most transformative things that you can bring into this is curiosity, not debate, not correction, and not curiosity. This is where you ask questions. Tell me about that. What brought you to that? What matters most here? Have you lived something that shapes how you see this? This is asking questions. This is what practitioners do to uncover fear. And almost every single time, underneath that position you found intolerable, you'll find a human need that you recognize. You'll discover that that person that you had filed under enemy is standing guard over something that they love, just like you. And in that recognition, the golden rule stops being a commandment that you're obeying. It becomes the obvious response to that which you are now seeing. And so finally, set wise boundaries. Because there's a distortion of this teaching that says the golden rule means to rob you or to absorb whatever comes. That love requires you to be endlessly available to being harmed. That's not divine principle. That's exhaustion with a halo on it. Setting a boundary itself is an act of the golden rule. It says, I respect you enough to tell you the truth. I respect myself enough to say it out loud. I am protecting the relationship by protecting both of us in it. When you cause harm, and you may, we all do, take it. Don't minimize it. Don't explain your intent as though your intent settles the matter. Don't wait to be caught. Say the thing. I see that I hurt you. Here's what I did. Here's what I will do differently. then act differently. When receiving an apology, the accountability measures of another person is a sacred act. This was shared by Adrian Brown. It's a sacred act. Not just being gracious, not just being mature, it's sacred. Receiving someone's repair work is holy work. 3 steps: accountability, curiosity, boundaries with amend. That's the whole method. It will help us remake every room that we walk into. You're going to meet people who just won't come to the table with you. You set firm boundaries to step away. You don't harden your heart when you step away, but you understand that's the best thing for that relationship. Unconditional love does not equal unlimited access. They're 2 different things. You can hold someone in the highest spiritual regard and still not sit at their table. You can pray for someone's awakening and still stop answering the phone. Distance is not a failure of love. Sometimes distance is the greatest act of love for both of you. And when you step back, like I said, don't let your heart harden on the way out. That's a real danger. That's not distancing, that's hardening. Soft heart, clear mind, calm action. That's how we hold a boundary without becoming the thing you set it against. So I'm going to close with a spiritual mind treatment for our nation. So let us take our nation into this treatment. Let's breathe in. There is one life. That life is God. That life is perfect, whole, and complete. And it is not, and it is the only life there is. It is not, it is intelligence. It is love. It is abundant, lavish, and extravagant, and there's nothing that can be taken from it or added to it. It has no opposite. It has no enemy. It is not divided against itself, and it never has been. And that one life is the life of this nation. It is the life of every person within these borders, every single one without exception. It is the life of the one I agree with and the life of the one I cannot understand. It is the life of those in power and the life of those with none. There is no place where that life leaves off and something else begins. I am that life. You are that life. They are that life. There is only one. I therefore declare for the United States of America, separation is not a fact. It is a belief, and beliefs can be released. I release on behalf of this nation the belief that another's dignity diminishes mine. I release the belief that there is not enough safety, not enough belonging, not enough room, that the universe is lavish and there has always been enough. I release the belief that contempt is strength, and I declare in its place that curiosity is strength, that great accountability is strength, and that the courage to be changed by what you hear is the greatest strength of all. I declare that in this nation right now, in 10,000 kitchens, council chambers, offices, that people are choosing the path of peace. They're choosing to be surprised by one another. They're apologizing. They're receiving apologies and calling it sacred. I declare that every such choice is fractal, that it is already reproducing itself at every scale, whether or not I can see it yet. I declare leaders who listen, leaders who are willing to change, leaders who set boundary without cruelty and take accountability without being forced to. And I declare that this is not something that I'm asking to happen. This is the truth about the nation whose real life is God, and I am simply now consenting to it. I give thanks, not to persuade, but to recognize. I give thanks that this is already done in divine mind. So I give thanks for the healing already underway in places that I never see. I give thanks for the people who are doing this work today with no one watching. And now I release this word into the law. which knows exactly how to accomplish it. I do not tell it how, I do not tell it when, I do not carry it any further. It is done, it is complete, it is perfect, and so it is. Amen.